Hey guys, my name is Naguura, and today we're going to be talking about how to find a rating guild or how to improve your ranking and find a better rating guild. First of all, I wanted to say Happy New Year, everybody, before we start this video. Thank you so much for all the support in 2020, and I hope for even better things for 2021. Hope you all have a super great year, and I hope you had a great celebration. Thank you so much for supporting me and watching my videos. Appreciate that very much. Thank you guys. So we are talking about finding a rating guild. You should first figure out which kind of person are you. Are you looking for a guild to have fun mostly, or are you looking for a guild that is really trying to focus on that rate, improving, getting better, getting a better ranking? I would say if your goal is to just find like-minded people that are trying to have fun and rate together, then I would suggest to find any guild really that is rating, but make sure it's an active guild. Because there's so many guilds out there who are advertising that they have 500 members or whatever, but then all of these people, they are just in a guild together, but they don't actually play together, which is not what you're probably looking for, right? You're looking for a guild that is active, that has an active community, that is playing in plus together, rating together, doing other things, farming achievements together. Really just make sure that it's a very, very active guild, because it's going to be so much easier for you to connect with those people and to have fun if you actually have active people in that guild that really, really play the game and just aren't in the guild for, I don't know, just being in a guild, right? Really try to find an active guild, maybe even have like an active Discord server or an active voice chat and just doing things together generally, because you're going to be much happier in a guild like that. All right, now, if you're not that kind of person, if you're actually trying to improve your ranking in the raid and you're trying to get better and better, then I would suggest you start by finding a guild that has a similar experience level than you have and are at a similar skill level, right? If you just packed before and you've never been in a raiding guild before, then try to find a guild that maybe is also just starting out in that progression, right? Maybe find a heroic guild that is trying to clear heroic, or try to find a guild that is just starting out in Mythic, because then it's going to be much easier for you to join that guild. And if you're reaching too far, too high up, that is not at the same experience level that you are at or the same skill level, then you're going to have a hard time and even going to have a hard time to get accepted. But even if you get accepted, then you might just not be able to keep up, and it's just not going to be good. So I suggest finding a guild that has similar skill level to you or experience level. And then once you get accepted in that guild, then I just suggest to try and do your best as you can. Don't just rely on your guild or rely on other people in your guild. Try to prepare as best as you can for the raid tier that is coming up. I mean, right now we're in the middle of Castle Nathriar, but once this tier is over and you might be joining a guild, make sure you prepare as best as you can for that raid tier. Make sure you're reading up on the strategies properly. Make sure your UI is set up properly for the raid. I even made a video on this specifically. If you want to check it out, I'll link it in the description below, where I explain exactly how you should set up your weak auras, your big wigs, your raid mod or whatever you're using to make sure you're as prepared as possible. Then, of course, also make sure you learn your class properly. Make sure you're playing your rotation properly. Use consumables, use defensives properly, all that kind of things. There's so many things you personally can do to improve that doesn't actually have anything to do with your guild, right? Then let's assume you joined a guild that is like-minded, and let's assume you have ended the raid, you killed all heroic bosses if that was your goal, or let's say you killed all of the mythic bosses if that was your goal. Then just look back at how you were doing, you personally. Look at your performance, think about it objectively. Did you do better than most of the people in your guild? Or did you do worse? Or did you do the same, right? If you did the same or even worse than the rest of your guild mates, then I would suggest just stick to this guild if you're allowed to stay in the guild, and try to improve the next time when the next raid is coming around, right? Just try to get as much experience as you can in this guild. Try to do better next time, prepare better, maybe just try to fix your mistakes that you made the last time. But if you actually think that you did better than most of the other people in your guild, then I suggest to find a new guild that is a little bit better than your current guild. Now, I know leaving a guild is not nice, and it might be hard if you found friends in that current guild, but the thing is, if you're doing better than most of the other people in your raid, it's going to be hard for you to stay in that guild or to even be happy there, because maybe they're not as motivated as you are, maybe they're not as dedicated as you are. It's just going to be a mismatch of goals. Maybe your guild is focusing more on having fun or just staying at the ranking that they currently are. And your goal is to get better and improving your ranking, right? So in my opinion, just try to find a different guild then, like a better guild. And the people that you befriended in your current guild, you can still play with them, right? You can still play in class with them or do other things outside of raiding. I do recommend to leave a guild in between raids though. Do not leave a raiding guild in the middle of a tier, because that will always be a bad thing to do, because then they were counting on you being in a raid and then all of a sudden you're gone and they have to replace a person that they might have geared. So definitely make sure you're doing this in between raid tiers, and then there usually won't be any hard feelings if you tell them well in advance. Just make sure you give your guild a long enough period of time to replace you in their roster, so there won't be any hard feelings between you and the guild that you were leaving. So when you apply to a new guild, the most important thing in my opinion is, of course, experience. You should be having similar experience than the guild that you're applying to. For example, if you're in a World 5000 guild, it's going to be very hard for you to get in a World Top 50, right? But if you just apply to a guild that is doing a little bit better than your current one, then the most important thing is that you have really good locks, Warcraft locks, right? Because that will be the indicator of how well you did in your current guild, and that will give your new guild the best impression of how you will be doing in the raid. So that is why I recommended earlier to do as well as you possibly can in your guild, even if you think not staying in this guild, right? Even if you think, oh, I don't think I belong in this guild, I think I want to join a different guild later on. That doesn't matter. You should still do as well as you possibly can yourself, because your locks are important. And when you apply to a new guild, you need to have good locks. And when I say you need good locks, I'm not saying that you need to be number one on damage on every boss fight, right? You don't need number one rankings on every boss. That's not actually what matters as much, because if you're applying to a good guild, then that guild probably knows how to read locks properly. What I mean by that is that the guild is checking, are you hitting the correct targets? Are you using your defenses properly? Are you randomly dying to things that you shouldn't be dying to? Are you using your health stone, your potions? Are you using everything that you can? Are you playing the right talents? Are you using your movement properly? There's so many things you can figure out from Warcraft logs. And if you're just petting, that will definitely be shown in the Warcraft logs. If you're hitting things you should not hit, or if you are using your cooldowns on meaningless AoE instead of using it on single target on the most important phases, then this is something that will reflect badly on you. So definitely make sure you use your cooldowns and you use your defensives and use everything as well as you can. So make sure you focus on your guild's progression and make sure you're hitting the correct targets and doing everything you can to get further with your guild instead of focusing on your own damage or anything like that, all right? Because it will definitely be shown in the logs. And the progression logs is really the thing that guilds are looking at when they see your application, right? Because everything else is not something they can get a lot of information from. I mean, yes, they will be looking at your experience, they will be looking at your gear and at maybe your Mythic Plus score even, but Warcraft logs is really the number one thing that they can read information out of. You can see if they're pressing their rotation properly, using cooldowns properly, hitting the correct targets, defensives, all that kind of stuff can be read out of Warcraft logs. So do as well as you can in your current guild if you want to join a better guild, because with bad logs or petting logs or dying to mechanics, it's going to be very hard for you to join a guild that is better and that is focusing on progression, because those things will just be all over your Warcraft logs and they will be seen, right? So definitely make sure you do as well as you can to have really, really good logs that are clean, no petting, no random dying, no nothing like that, right? Okay, so if you manage to get accepted into the new guild after doing all of this, then make sure you just repeat this process. Just rate one tier with this guild that you joined, do as well as you can, make sure you prepare as well as you can, do as well as you can, and then after the tier is over, then think about your performance. Look back objectively, look at your own performance. Did you do well? Did you do better than most of the other people? Did you do the same as the other people, or did you do worse? If it's the same or worse, make sure you stay in the guild and try to improve next time. If you do a lot better than your current guild, well, then maybe repeat the same process and try to look for a new guild that is doing a little bit better than your current one. And this way you can climb up the ladder, always join better and better guilds, until you reach the ranking that you're looking for. All right, so you can look at wowprogress.com or radar.io to find a guild. I personally like looking at wowprogress.com because it gives you those filters at the top. Here you can select whatever faction you want to play in. If you're not willing to change your faction, just select whatever faction you're playing at. Then select the raid days. If you can only raid 3 days a week, select this here, and then also select the language that you're looking for and press go. And now we'll filter all of the guilds to your requirements that you set. And here you can now look for a guild that suits you personally and your needs, right? You can go through the sites here. You can see, let's say you're right now in a guild that is 5 out of 10 mythic. You can check out similar guilds here. You can see the 5 out of 10 mythic progress. And then you can click on the guilds and see what their progression is like or what their raid days is like. If you check out this guild here randomly, then we scroll down, you can even see what kind of damage dealers they're looking for currently. You can see the language, you can see the rates per week, and then you can see this text here at the bottom, just has some more explanation about the guild, right? I personally really like looking at this specifically for the raid days because some people can only raid during certain times or they can only raid during certain days. So you can check the raid days usually here on the description of the guild, and you can see if this fits you personally and if you can actually raid during those days. So I really recommend just going through these filters and making sure you find a guild and then apply through this, right? If you're not willing to change the server because really you want to raid on this server, then you can even select a server as well. You can just go on Kazakh here, for example, and then you can see the rankings here on Kazakh and you can just go through the guilds here, right? So I definitely recommend looking this up and just finding a guild on this website. Now, of course, it's a pretty lengthy process to just slowly climb the ladder by joining a better and better guild every time, unless you make a huge step, right? If you start in a World 5000 guild, it's going to be hard for you to join a top 20 guild, right? It's going to take a really long time if you just make really small steps. So I personally found another way to join a good guild without just making these small steps, right? If you really, really want to jump guilds rankings like a lot, let's say you're in a top 500 guild and you want to join a top 20 guild, if you want to make a huge step like that, then in my opinion, there are some other ways to get that done, but it's going to be through other things outside of raiding. I personally think you either have to be really good at M+, because M+ is very different to raiding, definitely. It's very, very different. But if you're doing really well in M+, at least it shows that you are very dedicated and motivated to improve. Because someone who has a really, really high ranking in M+, like a really high rated.io score, that kind of person must have gotten there somehow, right? The person must have focused a lot on M+, make sure they improve there, and make sure they do as well as they can in M+. And that's really what matters in PvE generally, right? If you're raiding, you also need to approach a boss properly. You need to read up on the mechanics. You need to make sure you get the experience. You need to be dedicated, right? So if you have this dedication for M+, then it shows the guild that you're applying to that you also might have this dedication for the raid, right? So having a high score really, really does increase your chances to get into a guild. And outside of that, the only other way, in my opinion, to show that you're a really good player outside of having the experience or a rated.io score is trying to find a person that is in a good guild that can vouch for you. I know this is not really easy, but if you somehow know someone who's doing really well in a really good guild, then play with that person a lot, and show them how good you are at the game. If you're really, really good, and that person plays with you, no matter what aspect, maybe they play with you in M+, or they play with you in PUCs, or they play with you in PvP, it doesn't matter, right? If you can show this one player that you're really good, then maybe that one person in this good guild can vouch for you, and you might actually get into that guild. This is a lot harder than all the other things that I mentioned, but it's definitely also an option, and we've seen it before. I personally have raided in Method, and the way I joined Method was by slowly climbing up the ladder over the years, right? I personally started out in in a social guild with my real life friends. Then I joined a better guild, and I just slowly joined better and better guilds after every tier when I thought I was doing better than my current ranking was, or that I could join a better guild, right? And at some point I ended up being in Method. I got world first with Method for a couple of years. And this is how I did it. Like, I just slowly climbed the ladder over the years. Of course, as I said, it took a while, but this is really how people got into Method. As I was rating there, most people that got invited to Method were just people who were already in good guilds, that were in a top 5 guild or in a top 10 guild. And the only exception was people who got invited because they were friends with somebody and they were vouching for them, right? Maybe some player played with Fragrance in challenge modes and he vouched for them and said, hey, I'm playing with this person and this is a really, really good player. We should test them out and give them a trial. And because people respect their own players in the guild, they value their opinion about another player and maybe give that person a shot because someone vouched for them, right? So those are definitely things that you can do to get invited. And also, as I said, the Mythic Plus thing, I definitely already invited people into a guild, or we invited people to a guild because they were doing really well in M+. Even if their rating experience was not that great, just because of the things I mentioned earlier, right? All right, so to conclude all of this, it's just very important that you personally are trying to improve as best as you can, because it really matters how well you are doing and how well your locks are, no matter who you're playing with. Even if you're not in a very good guild, still make sure you do as best as you can, because it really matters. Because other people can see how you play, other people can see your locks, other people can analyze your play. So really think about that and try to improve as best as you can if you want to climb those ranks. Now, another thing I wanted to mention real quick is that some people might not know how to improve properly, right? Some people might not know where to look at or what to do. And I was thinking about making a guide on how to approach bosses and how to approach your playstyle for a specific boss fight properly. And that's something I'm gonna work on in my next video probably, or in one of my next videos. I will go into more detail on how I prepare for progression, how I prepare for a boss fight specifically. Outside of the video that I already made one video about preparing your weak arrest and everything and how to learn boss fights. But I would make another video going into more detail about how to prepare for a specific boss fight, right? Analyzing locks from other people who have already killed this boss, looking at, okay, so how did this Moonkin use their cooldowns on their kill? When did they use this? What talents did they use? When should I be using my cooldowns? What trinkets should I be using? When do I use my pot? All that kind of stuff, right? I have a process on how to do that for me personally, and I will definitely make sure I let you know how I do it, and maybe this helps you out for your preparation, for your progress, and it helps you out on improving and doing better. So I'll definitely make a video like that in the future. But I hope this helped you out on finding a guild or improving your own playstyle and just focusing on what you should be improving if you want to improve your ranking and join a better guild and climbing up that ladder. All right, so I really hope you liked this video. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe and make sure you check out my Twitch channel over at twitch.tv Naguura. You can come by anytime and ask questions there. You can also ask questions in the comments below, of course. Make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you like these kind of videos. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys!